Hello, you're listening to Raw 12:51 AM. It's Eddie, and I'm here at Warwick Arts Centre, where I'm delighted to be joined by Britain's most well-known, and I'd say best-loved film critic, Mark Kermode. Hello, Mark.
Hello.
Sorry. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to talk to us. You're here on campus for one night only to do a performance of your show, Mark Kermode Live, which you do monthly at the BFI in London. So first off, what can people expect from the show, and how would you best describe it?
Organized chaos, I think, is the best way of describing it. It came out of we do a show down in the BFI South Bank, which is a monthly show, and the idea of it is that it's just a 90-minute show talking about films, talking about current releases, talking about old releases, and it was designed to be a conversation with the audience. I said to people, tweet questions in advance, and anything you want to talk about, we'll talk about, and then it sort of took off. Rather, we started doing it in January of this year, and we've now coming towards the end of the first year of it. And it was suggested that we might like to go somewhere else with it, and because Simon and I had done a movie doctor show here. I suppose a couple of years ago now, which was great fun, and because obviously Simon's very attached to the university, which was his alma mater. So we just thought, well, we'll try doing it on the road. We did a show in Edinburgh a month or so ago, which seemed to go very well, and so it's basically, I mean, it is 2 hours of somebody talking about movies with some musical interludes and with a bunch of clips and with a lot of interaction with the audience, and because every audience is different, every show is different, so I can never predict in advance what it's going to work out like. It is all very dependent on the audience.
Well, I'm really excited to see that this evening.
Good.
So
you're going to be there?
I will be.
Good.
So I'm excited for that.
Okay.
Now, moving on.
Please don't throw things.
I would never do that. Now, I want to start off by talking about TV a bit, actually, because many contemporary film academics and critics have kind of said that TV is going through some sort of golden age, and potentially that actually the artistic value and talent in the TV industry is actually kind of a bit better than the film at the moment. I just wondered, what did you think of this concept? What is your opinion on the current state of the film industry and the kind of films reaching you?
Well, as far as television is concerned, I'm going to give you a very disappointing answer, which is that I don't watch television, not out of any snobbery, but because every week in the UK there's 12, 13, 14 films released, and my feeling is that if you're going to do the job properly, you have to try and watch as many of those films as possible. Otherwise, you're going to end up missing stuff, which is really interesting. I mean, particularly when you have, smaller releases like My Feral Heart or, The New Man or, films like that, which you would only see if you were actually going out of your way to see everything that came out, or Chicken or something. These are all films which I think have been really worthwhile. As a result of it, I literally don't have the time to start watching television stuff, and I am assured time and time again by people that there is material happening on television now that puts cinema to shame, and I'm perfectly willing to believe it. I mean, when Scorsese's done TV, and Woody Allen and all those people who you think of as quintessentially filmmakers, it is evidently the case that what's happening in television is at least as exciting, if not potentially more exciting than what's going on in cinema. My only answer, I don't know, because I haven't seen it.
But are your opinions on the current film industry?
I think the film industry is really thriving, but you just have to look for the stuff that's interesting. People always go, oh, well, it's been a terrible year, hasn't it? The whole cinema's been overrun by superhero movies and sequels and blockbusters. And you go, well, if you only ever go to a multiplex, then that may well be the case. But I mean, I was just doing my top 10 films of the year for The Observer. And, just this year we've had Under the Shadow, the Babak Anvari film, which is a, British production, shot in Jordan, in Farsi, set in Tehran. We had, the release of films like Son of Saul and Embrace of the Serpent, both of which were up for the Best Foreign Language Film Oscar earlier on this year. We've had Your Name, which is in cinemas now, which is this, runaway success in Japan and deserves to do really well here. It's this really, really exciting animation. In terms of mainstream movies, we've had things like Arrival, which is a really good science fiction film. And although I'll talk about Batman versus Superman, which was boring and nobody cares. So what I'm saying is that whole idea that cinema isn't as good as it used to be is just nonsense. It's just
the quality is there. You've got to seek it out.
Yeah, you just have to seek. I mean, Barry Norman famously said in any one year there are the same amount of good and bad films released in terms of percentage. I think he was right. The problem is, it's sometimes hard. I mean, if you haven't seen Notes on Blindness, then you haven't seen one of the best films that came out this year. And most people probably haven't, because you'd have to seek it out.
Um, Obviously, we've touched on here the criticism aspect, and as I study film as part of my degree here, and I was wondering, how do you approach criticism, and what do you take to be the most important aspect from film criticism?
Well,
Because it's open to debate. Really.
there's a number of things. I mean, I think you have to. Firstly, you have to describe what the film is accurately, like who made it, where does it come from, who's in it, how did it come to be on the screen. I mean, I think that's just a simple matter of actually describing the film, although it's actually not simple. I mean, if you read somebody like, well, Philip French, of course, who was the great, British film writer, he could do that stuff, incredibly well. Or you read Wendy Ide or Guy Lodge or Kate Muir. I mean, these are all people who can do that. It's a real talent. Secondly, it's a matter of attempting to evaluate the film on its own terms. If it's a comedy, is it funny? If it's a horror movie, is it scary? If it's a thriller, is it thrilling? And then thirdly, and probably the least important of them all, is what did you personally think of it? But that's the bit at which you have to be completely honest. And anyone who pretends that criticism is objective is talking nonsense. It isn't. It's all to do with personal response. And the only thing you can do is be absolutely honest about, well, I didn't find this funny, or I did find this funny, or I really like this. And regardless of whether you think the readership or the audience will agree with you, there's nothing worse than attempting to second guess the audience, because you'll never get it right. So you might as well just be completely honest about it. Plus, your opinion may change. I mean, you look at, this week we've got the reissue of Blue Velvet, which I think is one of the greatest movies ever made. And when I first saw it, I hated it. I mean, absolutely hated it. So, but the weird thing is, that thing about simply describing the film is actually a lot harder than it looks. And there are many journalists working in this country who are much better at it than I am. But that's the kind of the basis of it. What is it? Where does it come from? How did it get there? And how does it sit in terms of other films? What other films is it related to? What should you have seen if you're going to make sense of it? And if you liked it, what else should you perhaps? Is it a remake of a foreign language film? Is it, so that's situating it in the cinema landscape.
You mentioned you feel there are people out there who are much better at doing it than yourself.
Yes.
And I know that you cite Kim Newman and Nigel Floyd, amongst others, as being the film critics that you looked up to and highly respect,
yes,
particularly when you first started out.
And still now.
But how does it feel to know that you now hold that kind of same position in the minds of many young film critics and film students, such as myself, and I know my other film students, my friends, think of the same. You hold that kind of position.
Well, it's very kind of you to say so. I don't think I'm anything like as good a writer as those people that I mentioned. But what I think is that all the time I meet people who want to be film critics, and most of them probably actually don't want to be film critics. They think they do, but they actually probably don't. But I've met loads of people. I think of somebody like Chloe Catchpole, and when I met her, she was keen, and she had an incisive mind, and she had a way with language, and I knew that she was going to be able to make it, and of course, which she has done. She's done very well, and whenever I see those people coming along, I just think if anything at all has made them think, well, I could do that, and that's a good thing. I do think probably it's possible to look at me and go, well, blimey, if he can do it, it can't be that hard.
Well, I was interested because do you think a formal education in film, such as a degree in film studies now, would make for a better film critic? Because I know that you studied English literature at university.
Yeah.
But if you had the choice now, would you maybe choose to do a degree that includes film as part of it?
That's a really hard question. I mean, you're studying.
I do film and literature, so I do both.
Okay. I mean, it's probably the case that you know more about film now than I do. I mean, you're certainly more qualified to talk about it than I am. My only qualification was I watched a lot of films from a very young age. Kim Newman once said that people would say to him, how do you become a film critic? And his first question was, well, have you been obsessed with cinema since as long ago as you can remember? Because if the answer to that question is no, you've got a lot of catching up to do, just in terms of, viewing. And I look at somebody like Mark Cousins, and I don't know whether Mark Cousins studied film, and yet somehow he seems to know more about cinema than anyone I've ever met. And I don't know whether that came from, I mean, certainly it cannot hurt. And I think film studies courses are, I mean, I wish that when I'd been, at looking at university, I even considered it to be an option.
Okay.
But I was at college a long time ago. I think they'd literally just invented the wheel, and I don't remember film studies. Certainly not at Manchester being an option.
So finally, then you just touched upon seeing lots of films, and I just wondered, as a student radio station, what would be your main piece of advice for people wanting to go into journalism and film journalism in particular?
Well, what you're doing now is the right way of going about it. I mean, I started in Manchester writing for Mancunian, which was the student newspaper, and working for City Life magazine, which was a workers' co-op, so it had an open door policy, so everybody had to be given a chance. And it was just that thing about, remember to be enthusiastic, because nobody wants to read or hear film criticism from somebody who doesn't like films. I mean, and attempt as much to see as much as you can, and to be as sort of open-minded as you can. Incidentally, these are not pieces of advice that I have necessarily followed myself. I mean, believe me, if I was planning my career now, I wouldn't go back and start it the way I did. But you know, the fact that you're doing this, and the fact that you are as well qualified as anybody else. Plus, you've actually got some kind of academic clout. So I expect to see you taking my job within the next 10 years.
I wouldn't. We'll see. Well, thank you again for taking the time to speak to us, Aaron Rourke.
Very best of luck with it. I hope it works out well.
And good luck with the show tonight. Don't forget, you can catch Mark along with Warwick University graduate and former Raw presenter Simon Mayo on BBC.
And fake doctor.
On BBC Radio 5 Live every Friday between 2 till 4 for Kermode and Mayo's film review. Thank you again, Mark. Thank you.